My understanding,
I'm sorry.
my understanding is that at this point, it's probably, it has not been discussed by the finance committee yet. But at this point, I think it comes down to Bud. And what Bud decides to do. Whether it'll come out of committee to general or not. I was told that the gentleman from South Portrait also Art had gotten a hold of and had changed his mind on things, but then Josh was gonna talk to him again and see if he couldn't swing them back the other way. But I don't know if you eventually got to
I
speak with
actually talked to Bud quite a bit right after the meeting, and I haven't since then, but I'll reach out to him again. And see what we can.
arrange. If we get it out of committee, I'm pretty sure it goes through.
Yeah.
We should really just have a chance at least to go to the full committee and let,
I did have a meeting with Tina and with Shelley Johnson a week and a half ago or so. It's like a 2-hour meeting. There's an awful lot of stuff that the county is doing that nobody knows about. For example, with the wastewater treatment plants, they are negotiating with the city for the wastewater treatment plants from Stamford to Walton. I don't know if you knew about it. I didn't.
no, I didn't.
Negotiating for what?
That was the next
We're
question.
negotiating.
Yeah, I saw that note that she sent, yeah.
For what it's worth, that's one of the reasons I'm here today, and I can go into some more of those details to make sure everybody's kind of on the same page.
Right. I had the impression, or at least from Shelley, you must know Shelley, that she was talking about specifically the ones that are on the Delaware River from Stamford to Walton. I don't know if it extends beyond Walton or not. But those are the ones that she had mentioned. She had brought in Stamford, Southport, right, Boonville, Camden, all of the places along and down, that they are in level 4 or
Priority level 3 land, yeah. That's irrelevant to what the negotiations are, 2 separate things, but yes, they are in a certain priority area for the land acquisition classifications.
So for you and I, that has some significance, not so much for Margaretville,
Yeah.
but Margaretville's.
Well, and actually Glenn and I had talked, and he was gonna touch base with you about that. And it's just the whole thing. They're at capacity or they're not, we can't.
That's right. There's
And
a
when we
million
don't-
variables with the wastewater treatment plants and who owns them and how old they are and what agreement you guys have versus what you have with the city versus what Holmesville has, which is a new system.
And we're at the point now
it's
where they
confusing.
keep telling us they're at capacity, but the state's telling us
That's
you gotta put in housing, how we put in housing without being able to, deal with the septic.
And you just got Halkettsville
Yeah,
included now.
and they're starting to hook those up,
That's right.
so.
Do you want me to go into some,
Well,
finish yours?
that's a
and
nice
then I'll-
transition. So-
Okay,
So,
yeah. I saw there have been negotiations going on. In addition, I don't know if this gets recorded or relayed.
It is
Can we keep
recorded.
some of this between us? Too much information that gets back to the city from this could impact negotiating positions. So I just want to make sure.
can we pause a little bit, Ray? Thanks.
Okay.
Fair warning.
She's so loud.
I know, well, I can do something.
So,
Yeah. As we had talked about prior to Ray and Sam getting here, nothing has been done by the county as far as our appeal for the sales tax is concerned. They are supposed to be starting their budget meetings shortly, very shortly.
yeah, this week.
I think this week is when they're gonna start.
Yep.
apparently it's being left to discussion for the budget meetings.
Yep.
And as I said before, from what I have picked up and talking, et cetera, it seems to me that a lot of this is going to wind up coming down to Bud Gladstone. But his opinion is his perspective.
I know what his is,
Oh, you do?
absolutely do. But come and see me the same day, that we met, he come to the fair that night just purposely to see me.
And
We,
Bud is in favor of it.
I thought he was, cause
Yes.
I spoke with him probably the next day or the day after.
Bud is in favor of it. As you know, Joe's in favor of it. Joe does think that we should have had his proposal.
yeah, I know.
He called me complaining about that.
Me too.
well,
What's his
I
proposal?
was surprised that he was as supportive as he was.
First.
Yeah, I think his proposal was based on population rather than on revenues that we're getting.
Yeah, he says our first proposal. I just talked to Joe the other day, actually. That's all I knew. They were having their meetings this week. He was headed for a budget meeting that day. On it. He believes our proposal is misguided and not correct. You probably know this. He believes his is correct.
And we may have made that one error, and I don't know why, with Hancock. I'm not sure how it came out to be that. But we can go back and revisit that.
To me, it's,
You know, if
We can change, we can work with and do different things. The main thing is we need to get some money to come in to help us out.
Absolutely.
That's the bottom line.
they say that they're willing to do that, then we can sit down and arrive
Right.
at an agreeable numbers. I did resend I forget if I sent it to everybody or to John and Ed. There is a new form that came out from 2022. It's the most recent numbers I could get on the rest of the state, how they do their sharing, and the 12% is, no matter what Wayne says,
Pretty low.
that 12% is actually a little low.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we're at. If it gets out of committee, again, my understanding is that it will pass.
Yeah, just give us a chance to go before the whole board and see what they gotta say. That's fair.
So, on another note, Ray, would you like to address the chambers?
Oh, well, the chamber, recently, the chamber board, every year, the chamber honors different organizations and businesses in the county with our annual business awards. One of those categories is the Community Connector Award. This year, there are, well, let me back up a little bit. Business of the Year is one of those categories. This year, the Business of the Year award will be going to Mallinckrodt Pharmaceuticals in Hobart. Our Rising Star New Business Award, this year, we have 8 recipients. Hopefully you already saw this in this week's newsletter that you got on Monday. But Walton Diner is included in that and several others. The Community Connector Award this year is going to 2 recipients. Reagan Reed, who some of you probably know with the Cardio Club here in Delhi, for that collaborative effort that she has always pursued, bringing different businesses together and communities together. And also the Delaware County Mayors Association is one of our recipients for our Community Connector Award. So that will be presented on October 16th at the Meredith Inn at Stonewall. And I will send you all a link for some more information. It sounds like you all haven't read our newsletter this week.
I have.
October 16th, it's a Wednesday. It's also National Chamber of Commerce Day. Starting at 5:30. with a little networking and then dinner at 6. Jerry Pellegrino, who hopefully some of you know, he and his team will be preparing dinner that evening. It's gonna be a lot of fun. It'll be pretty fabulous. So I hope to see you all there.
Where's it gonna be again? I'm sorry.
Meredith.
Meredith Inn.
Okay.
Meredith Inn at Stonewall is what it's now called. 4206 Turnpike Road. The GPS says Delhi, though it sits in the town of Meredith.
So do you present awards at this? So at least some of us should be present. I believe, the note that I got from Ray was it's $60 a plate.
Yeah, which just about just covers my costs, honestly. Actually, it doesn't, but everybody who wants to be a sponsor, let me know.
Oh, well. Set aside that evening, I'll make sure I'm going, if then the rest of you would like to attend as well. I think it would be a nice gesture. And we thank you very much for,
Yes.
Well, I think,
It's gonna be-
part of the chamber board, what my board, noted is you all are changing the nature of the conversation here in Delaware County.
Again.
The fact that we have these type of collaborative conversations that are taking place. And you're asking questions, you're looking at things, how we, and at its core, how do you support our communities? And because of that, how do you support our businesses here in the county? So it was an obvious choice. And it was unanimous for whatever that counts for.
like I said, we thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you this, Ray.
Yeah.
You might be able to answer or not, but.
I'll make it up if I don't know.
Yeah,
Good, bad.
a long time ago, I know we used to have Fleischmann's, used to have a chambers of commerce.
Yeah, they used to.
And, the only
Used
reason
to
why,
be the Fleischmann's Alliance for Business, or FAB.
but still,
Beats
that-
me. If you have some businesses in Fleischmann's business owners who are interested, excuse me, who are interested in starting something like a chamber, let me know. I've done this with some other groups, other communities. I have some sample bylaws that the US Chamber
yeah,
has produced. It's really a simple process.
right,
Honestly, Fleischmann's Alliance for Business may still exist.
yes, but I don't
As-
know who's in charge of it.
Oh, I don't think it exists in that way. I
Okay.
don't think there's anyone who will say, I'm it. I'm talking about from the point of view of Department of State.
Okay,
So that would make it easy. There's already some identification numbers and things perhaps, but in order to create a new set of bylaws, get them moving in the directions that they may need to look at, I'm happy to help. I'm happy to help do that. I just need, if there's 4, 5 people that are interested in, or business owners interested in doing it,
yeah,
Fleischmann's first try to fill that void. But they're kind of doing some of those things, but what I often feel the need to tell or advise folks in communities is, this is a chamber of commerce. This is not the Rotary Club.
right,
If your goal is something broader, that's great. It's not Chamber of Commerce is for business. So having a group of retirees say that they're a Chamber of Commerce, you're not. Go join the Lions Club
Right.
or form one.
Yeah.
That was directed toward
Yeah,
you,
sounds
yeah.
to me, I know. Heck, we need help in the Lions Club, but we used to have like 90 members like 3 years ago, now we're down to like 20. It's hardly get anybody to do anything.
20, you're still rocking and rolling. I spoke to the Hobart Rotary last night, and I
Really?
think there were 8 people.
Wow. Oh, so I guess it's all around.
And I'm not young, but I was the youngest in the room.
Okay, I got
That
it.
is one of the biggest problems. Everybody wants,
Everybody wants to do, I know.
but nobody wants to do. I've seen it many times. You have a group of 20 and a project gets started. And then by the time you finish, there's 2 or 3.
2 people, yeah, 3
Left.
people.
And and you know, Sam, that's okay. And while I have the floor, let me pitch 2 things. One is our Emerging Leaders Program. And there's a brochure there behind Ed on the wall. And we'll start on, actually, that says October 10th. I haven't changed that, swapped out that one. We're starting on October 17th, meets 1 full day a month, for 9 months. And we talk about community development. We talk about what that process looks like and how it starts with 1 or 2 people and how you build it out from that and how we can create some structure. The other program that we will be offering in October is the brochure behind Sam on the wall. And that's our Candidate Training Institute, to identify folks who have some interest in running for elected office. So it's 4 Wednesday evenings, starting on the 23rd of October. Thank you, Jeff, for agreeing to be part of our first session. And there's no fee, 4 90-minute sessions where we talk about community development. We talk about some of what I call what I think of as those critical areas in our communities, like healthcare, like education. How do we build a visitor economy? Talk about economic development. We talk about that Alice report and our neighbors in need, but also some of the mechanics of running for office. The petition process. How many signatures do you need? What's that campaign look like? But also, how do you create a vision? How do you develop your what I call your doorstep pitch? Because you only got 10 seconds before someone closes the door on you. And how do you work with media? How do you develop your messaging? How do you get that messaging across and use different media outlets to do that? So it's a 4-week program. So I ask you if you would take one of those, and if you have folks who you may know, who think maybe, or someone that you see in your community that's like, that person would be really good in this kind of role. Encourage them to participate. Completely non-politically partisan. I've gotten the enthusiastic support from both the Republican and Democrat chairs here in the county for the program. Imagine Katie Taggart and Kathleen Hayek agreeing to something. But it happened. So, yeah, that's I'm off my soapbox. Thank you.
Thank you.
I also had, it's not on the agenda, but because the college had a ribbon cutting ceremony last Friday, all the politicians rolled into town. I mentioned before, a couple of them. I wound up at the college in between Chris Tague and Janet Tweed, which wasn't necessarily a bad thing, but it was a little awkward. Anyway, the other one that stopped in and we had almost a 2 hour conversation with Harris White. Stepped into the village hall and Maya and I, had a conversation with him. He's younger than I expected. He's
Yeah.
quite,
Yes.
young, but he's
Good guy.
extremely helpful.
Yeah, I got a lot of emails from him. He's a good guy.
Yep, there's a lot of things that he, is in definite agreement with his son and I'd like to help with and be cultivating that relationship a little bit more. He appreciates it. He sends out reminders, information, etc. He appreciates it very much when people respond to those, even though they're sort of general mailings, just a thank you for informing me, etc., etc. He lets him know that we're
Really
paying
paying
attention,
attention for that.
and that he is having an effect on what we do. I know Ray's had more of a relationship with him.
He's a great guy. I agree with that. Yeah, he is. Harris really cares.
Yeah, I sat down at lunch with him before. He's really pretty.
And thank you for giving him that reinforcement because he doesn't always feel that love
Yeah.
Right.
from Delaware County.
He did mention the fact that, there's been a vast improvement in 1 year. Last year, I believe that there was, Ray, maybe you remember, there were only 1 or 2 communities that had gone through the pro housing, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, actually, the pro housing saga, when the governor announced it about this time, or last summer before last, and no one really paid attention to it until January, where she said, well, all these, you're gonna have to do pro housing if you expect any of these state dollars coming your way, or many of them. So people started paying attention, and thanks to you all, and the work that the Mark Project has done in the eastern part of the county, the work that Amy Warner continues to try to do to elevate this awareness of pro housing. Last time I looked, and it was a little while ago, Delaware County had 10 communities that had started at least the process. And that led all counties in the southern tier.
Yeah.
Now, it didn't help, honestly, when the county government came out, the county board came out and said, don't do it.
Right.
And gave, I know of at least one individual who was given a rash of crap about promoting that idea. It makes no sense to me, why you would not be pro housing.
According to Harris, he said that apparently Delaware County has more than anybody else at this point.
I'm sure that's still the case. I'm sure that's still the case.
So we went from the bottom to the top in 1 year.
We went from 0 in, Dr. Mary Bonderoff is, I'm pleased to tell you, was appointed this summer as the president at SUNY Delhi. And Mary, I think this was back in January or February, was at some event down in SUNY Binghamton, where SUNY Binghamton got all these dollars, and she's standing there like the poor country cousin. And they had the map of pro housing, and Mary came back and talked about it at the college council meeting that there was Delaware County with nothing, a big blank field. And that's when it became obvious to a lot of us that we need to step up this effort. And again, you all led that. If you look at the 10, primarily they were the villages that did this. So, yeah, it's great to see.
And in addition to that, what I, talked to Harris about, because of concern to me, I have put together a Main Street committee for Delhi. Because now that we've been certified by the state, et cetera, then that opens up some monies.
There's $680 million that was set aside in the consolidated funding application this past cycle for specifically, exclusively for pro-housing communities. And that's the way it's gonna continue.
Yeah.
So there'll be even more dollars, I suspect, next year. And of course, those New York Forward and the work that they're doing in Margaretville right now, or Middletown for the downtown revitalization initiative grant. That's the kind of stuff that's why the state has put these programs in place to kind of help and encourage those conversations like are happening in Middletown right now.
And they can call Delhi a copycat. That's what we're kind of trying to late is Margaretville's revitalization project for downtown. Not that we're looking to change it, but the point that Harris, because I asked them directly in the past, a lot of those awards have gone to the bigger community.
Well, we tried, then you may help us.
Well, and that took a lot of lobbying.
Yeah.
And that's where the New York Forward program was developed, because I'm sure I was not alone in complaining to Empire State Development that these DRIs are great, but they're not gonna do anything for me. They're not gonna do anything for my communities out here. And frankly, after 10 years, how many more places are you're gonna have to start dipping down, if you will, and get a little bit more creative than the Elmiras and the Cornings and the Binghamtons and Oneonas, and Oneonta still hasn't done very much with theirs, I think. But that's Otsego County.
But Harris did assure me that that is no longer the case, that they are going to.
Well, I think they have to just run out of candidates. So I think they're gonna have to, they're starting to think a little bit more creative and
Should we do the grant that you did, maybe we should start that
the
again?
New York Forward.
Yeah.
I don't think you have time for it for this year,
No,
but
but
I
I mean,
think,
but
I
that's
think
good.
you start building that process for 25. Yeah.
Yeah.
As you're going into as you all are going into budget season, think about, because, if you get $100,000 on a New York Forward, oh wait, no, it's not $100,000. It could be 4.5, or it could be 2.25.
Right.
There's a match piece to that. Or even just for next year, think about those planning grants that are coming out of Department of State, where it's gonna cost you get about $150,000 of planning services, but you're gonna have to kick in about 15 grand in order to do that. So as you're thinking about, I know budgets are always tight, but if you can squirrel away $15,000 or $20,000 for something like that, that may be a good investment.
Ray, let me ask you something, and you deal with a lot of different people. I think all of us have issues with grant writers. Do you ever run into any of these grant writers? Is there any way that us as a group could get a grant writer to, I don't know. I think it's not our issue that we want to get grants, is how to get some of the right grants the right way. And
My feeling with my philosophy with grants is, there's a certain language that you need to use.
Right.
But it's also, a lot of it is depending upon the granting source, is a lot of it has to do with relationship. So there are groups out there, Labar's group, who has met with you all before, who will do grants. The thing is that a lot of those larger companies, you're paying up front, whether they get it or not. Doing it on a contingency basis is a different matter. And it's grant writing is a different language, it's a different skill, and honestly, Ed, one of the big reasons why that New York Forward application that we submitted for the Village of Walton didn't advance was because it was apparent that the town of Walton was peeing all over your shoes.
Right.
And there was only so much rouge and makeup that we could put on,
Right. No, you're
lipstick
right.
on that. So, and no grant writer is gonna be able to cover that.
One of the things, and this kind of goes back to what I was saying in the course of that 2 hour discussion with Shelley, it was mostly Shelley and I. Tina sat there through the whole thing. I will say this, as far as Tina is concerned, she seems to be much more receptive, open, cooperative with us as far as this. When she deals with us, she's been much less aggressive, I guess would be the word. But with talking to Shelley through most of that meeting, the first is they are ready, willing, and able to help with things like a Main Street committee. To sit and work with them, to attend some meetings, to advise, et cetera, et cetera. And second of all, they do have some grant writing capabilities.
They do. I will say, Sean Letty, I spoke to Shelley and Sean is helping us with a grant that we're gonna be going through the Community Foundation, a large grant for the theater. So I gave him all the paperwork. He's gonna start going and we'll sit down. So that at least she said they would, and he has to help him. So.
And Lillian, please do not include this. If I can just interject one thing, I think in a lot of ways, county planning is part of the problem. You've seen it, you're seeing it every day in the village of Sydney right now, where they tore out your tax base. Our transportation plan continues to go nowhere because of county planning. I've seen over and over again that the representatives to the village and town planning boards from county planning are obstacles to community involvement, community development, proper business development. And frankly, who knows what the empire is? That they're negotiating for your wastewater treatment plants and you don't know about it. You're on the coalition. You don't know about it.
I didn't know about it. Yeah, I was
But
shocked.
the coalition is there.
I'm gonna bring it up at the meeting next week.
What I would suggest, there are some, John, I don't know who you had facilitating that session that I saw some photographs of, that community conversation. But there are some, you asked about grant writers. Before the grant writers, there are some really gifted facilitators that live in our region. Kevin DePodwin up in Roxbury is one, who's going to be talking about strategic planning, by the way, for our candidate training institute, who for years worked with the New York City Mayor's office on some of that emergency planning and really, and has done facilitation work for me. That's the first step, I'm sorry, I had to miss your first meeting last evening, but was the Main Street meeting last night?
Yes.
Yes.
I missed it
I know,
also.
you're thinking, what,
When I left the office. they were-
but, that's the kind of conversation that you can have in your community. And you know, finding those facilitation skills just to get people talking and then you building it all out from there. And that's where the grant comes in. That's where the planning comes in. That's where the interface with the municipality comes in. All right, I'm walking my soapbox again. Thank you, Lily. You can listen again.
I have to leave, I have to get back to the city, all right, thank you very much, I'll see you next meeting. Cause we got something going on in the hospital today, they're having, cause of 9/11, they're having a big celebration, and the sheriff's office is gonna have the color guys there, and then we're having a picnic, and all the
Nice.
when supervisor's gonna be there, and they're gonna have, our senator and congressman, and so I gotta
Yeah, I
show my face.
I sent a note. I sent my regrets this morning to Boomer and Seth that I can't attend.
I will let them know.
My day is full.
All right, thank you, take care, guys, I'll see you
All right,
soon.
take care.
Yeah, bye-bye.
See you next time.
I think we also need to, start thinking beyond the sales tax issue, what our next great concern should be. Where we can direct our efforts. Um, I think we've gone at least to this point as far as we can go with sales tax. Falls in their court and we have to wait for the response. Not that it ends there if it doesn't go through, but at least at this point, we can begin to focus on some of the other areas we had talked about at the beginning of all of this. I don't know which would be the council's second concern.
We got notes on what. It almost seems like it was gonna be the taxes, right?
Right, yeah,
I think that was gonna be.
foreclosures and.
Yeah.
The foreclosures. I think, well, at least from Delhi's point of view, the county's running a little scared because we're running our own foreclosures extremely effective. We've collected or are in the process of collecting all of our back taxes.
Do you use?
I just got 4 years from
An attorney out of
Wow.
Oneonta?
4 years.
4 years of taxes on
Use your own
one.
attorney?
Is that Donald?
Actually, he's current. He may have a current year,
Yeah.
but he's current.
Wow.
Yeah. We've got 2 separate individuals that have 2 parcels looking to make payment arrangements to pay theirs within a year.
Is that legal though? Can they make payment arrangements?
Well, we're gonna
Yeah.
draft an agreement through our attorney,
Okay,
which they'll sign.
but you can do it. Okay,
And the foreclosure procedures began with our attorney.
Yeah. And that'll leave us with 1 parcel that's unpaid on our foreclosure.
Oh,
Everybody else is just current year.
as soon as they started getting the legal notices, they started scrambling.
but I thought, the county after 2 years, the county takes it
Just
over.
be a little careful.
If they're satisfying the county and they're not satisfying you, the county's never gonna go after them. That's the trouble, and they know that.
And they know that.
Yeah, a lot of them. We actually have a lot.
Now, county used to do, if they would come to pay them, they would send them over and have to bring proof over that they paid the local.
Yeah,
They don't do that.
They don't do that. They haven't. And I'm thinking maybe it's change of staff.
Hmm.
I don't know.
yeah.
For us, it was what, a total of 50,000?
Yeah,
That we're now collecting this.
now I'm waiting on the attorney to draft the payment agreement, but yeah.
I mean, it could be, I don't know how much you guys have outstanding, but
Mine's like 400,000.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
I think we, including penalties, when I was calculating October, is less than 100,000 total, including penalties. We've collected, I wanna say 93% of the current year. But I've got 50 letters that'll be going out next month, now that the payment schedule on the tax bill is. But we're in pretty good shape.
We sent letters ourselves, but we have.
Oh, I do all the time.
We have done that, but
Having them come from the attorney senior.
I know Stanford just is doing the same thing. I know, I was gonna actually talk to him today. I know he's hiring an attorney out of Leon or something, right, to do it. I don't know.
Well, we've got our village attorney, but
Maybe reach out to
we, you
you.
know, I know when I worked in Syracuse. An insurance agency, we used to draft, we had a standard attorney letter and we would send them names of people that were delinquent. Have them send a letter out on their letterhead. At a per letter charge,
Yeah.
like maybe $100,
Mhm.
because again, if they get a letter from an attorney.
Right, it's a whole different
Yeah.
ballgame.
I think we probably started out with 12 parcels maybe that went to the attorney.
Yep.
They waited till the 11th hour though.
They did.
A lot of them do anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What's the population of
Yeah.
the village of, Delhi?
About 3,400. Give or take, if you add the college kids in, it goes over.
Yeah, it's about
5,200.
So the college is in the village,
Mhm.
and you guys don't get nothing from the college?
Not bad.
Oh,
State institution, tax exempt.
that's exempt, wow.
They pay for
Tax
water
exempt.
sewer.
And we don't get sales tax or whatever money they spend in the village. We get nothing from that.
All their county buildings are the same way, right?
County building,
Churches,
Churches, they have, yeah,
Hospital.
churches that we have, all two of them. You guys have a lot of county buildings also.
How about, is Price Chopper and, McDonald's, are they,
That's part of Redstone.
And they pay taxes.
Right,
They
they
do.
pay tax, but every year they go to the courts and ask for their tax and they reduce, and they win.
They win. We just went through.
Thousands.
oh,
Maybe like tens of thousands, I
Yeah.
wanna say, yeah.
We had the credit union that just sued us and went to court, sued us and won.
Mhm.
Had to get money back, actually.
One of the things that I will say, in talking with, Chris Tague, that he did mention is that perhaps we have to start looking, and I think it would be an excellent place for us. Put some emphasis and support is that when we start talking about tax exempt properties, that they no longer be 100% tax exempt, that we find a percentage for tax exempt, because it's becoming not just for us, but
everybody,
Fleischmann's,
everybody.
everybody wants to declare themselves tax
Mhm.
exempt. And they meet the qualifications, so there's not much you can do, but
Right.
the villages, the towns are becoming so high on their tax exemptions that whether it be that the state comes through and picks up some of the tab for that, or whether it just becomes, well, you're 75% tax exempt and you'll need to pick up at least 25% of it. That's just something that, it's an idea that's starting to be kicked around.
Would that require state legislator,
It would.
legislative action?
Yeah.
Okay.
And as I said, the idea is there, if we were to decide that that's something that the villages would benefit from, that perhaps we would begin to lend support to the politicians to get that through. Like I said, for Delhi, we're set at 74% taxes, then, you know, that would be huge for us. Because not only is that you have the college, you have the county buildings, you got the hospital, you've got the Delaware Academy, I mean, there's 13, 14 churches in the village.
Yeah. Actually, here was the list of.
Concerns, property taxes. State tax, fair tax. Foreclosure, prevailing wage issue was number 4 on our list. We kind of dealt with the first 3. But the next issue on here was the prevailing wage issue. And I think that, we can talk more about tax exemptions as well. Whether we need to. I'm sure Chris, if he has some time, would come and sit down with us again. And talk about that issue, and we can. Begin to see where we could go with that, as far as the state would be concerned. I don't think we are limited to the county stuff. If it benefits the county, we can deal with things at a higher level as well. I think they're listening to us.
Yeah, I don't think they have a choice. You know,
Yep. We've definitely become a voice that they're paying more attention to.
We have, like, for instance, the village of Fleischmann's. We're losing full-time housing to Airbnbs. People is being asked to, empty the apartment because they're gonna clean it up, and so people is moving, they're forced to move out. So you're losing your day-to-day people living in the village, contributing to the local economy. Then this is growing and growing and growing. Long story short, it's gonna be to the point that with all of the state regulations, state mandates, your infrastructure falling apart, what's gonna happen? And then we're talking about bringing businesses into the village, but these businesses are not gonna survive 7 days a week. Because you're gonna have
There's no one
problems,
living there.
nobody's, it's gonna be a resort town. So now you open, if you're lucky, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then what happens to the other people that actually lives there, not in Fleischmann, but on the outside, Fleischmann's coming in, and so they're gonna have to go to your franchises out of town, so eventually places like Fleischmann, which is, almost 350 people year round, what's gonna happen? The cost of living. And I scratch my head when I hear more and more mandates from the state. For instance, on the requirements for the sewer plants, the water, and the infrastructure. Within the past 2 months, we fixed one underground pipe, and because you fix it and the pressure goes out, and that pipe was 50 years old. Oh, down the line, you just patch
It's a new
these,
one.
yeah,
you have a new one, exactly.
yeah, exactly.
So it's like, you are $20,000-$30,000 of just repairing these things, which is a big, you didn't put that into your budget because, first of all, I had no clue that will happen. And then when it happened, and then we have, the other issue. Right now, the village of Fleischmann is being run by two people. It's our village clerk / treasurer that she had no clue about, bookkeeping or nothing like that, because that wasn't her job. And we haven't been able to find a treasurer. And then me, the mayor that actually, goes around, I did the pool, I did the certification, I did the chemicals, and then I go to the meetings, and then I go deal with these infrastructure problems
And try to run a business.
and try to run a business, and it's like, man. And then you have obviously your trustees, but everybody's like, oh, I'm sorry, I have no time. Oh, I'm going on vacation. And as you know, we as mayors, we cannot ask anybody to resign because they were chosen by the people. So all in all is, we start with housing. That is a big problem, that we're losing people, and then we want to bring businesses. But those businesses, how are they gonna be supported? Who's gonna support this business? You're gonna drive through Fleischmann's on a Tuesday, and it's gonna be like dead.
Yeah.
And but in the meantime, you have all the expenses that the village has to, on a day-to-day basis, pay for. So,
And the larger villages have just the opposite problem. But we have such a demand for housing right now because people want to be in the village. I can't even come close to matching it. I've got people from the Marcy South 2 line at my door. I've got people from Clark Industries at my door. Even the county is banging my door because they can't hire people because there's no place for them to live.
Exactly,
That's
that's,
the same problem. We have a ton of low income housing, and that's all we have.
yeah,
Exactly, and to find middle income housing, I'm being told, well, it can't be houses, it's gotta be apartments too. Because middle income can't afford to buy a house.
mhm,
So anybody I talk to about development, it's all apartments.
yeah,
So we've kind of got the opposite, but we've got the people that want to be there.
mhm.
We don't have the places to
We
put
don't
them.
have places, exactly, we're losing the places, the
Yes,
full-time housing.
I'm working hard on that. That's our number one issue right now. Well, not, I don't know if it's a number one issue.
Yeah,
Housing's pretty big
It's a big issue for us.
And on rentals, we have like something like a 2.7% vacancy rate in Delaware County.
Yeah,
Currently.
there's-
But to pick up on what Tam was talking about, is you're thinking collectively about what are those next issues. You mentioned short-term rentals, it's the Airbnbs. One of the problems that I see that's happening across the state is we have this real patchwork of regulations. And no one really interested in
very.
coming up with some standards. So perhaps a conversation that could happen with your group is to develop some framework that the villages can adopt. And I'm happy to bring in some tourism industry. This is an issue for the tourism industry.
Yes.
They acknowledge, when this first started, they were like, oh, no, that's lodging. You can't, no, hands off. And now, leaders in the tourism industry across the state have said, this is the problem and we need to acknowledge this.
Yeah.
And, the state legislature passed a bill this past year that the governor hasn't signed yet that is simply just a registration. That will require registration at a state level that's enforceable. But there's still no patch, like I said, it's still a patchwork. So I can bring there are some folks who are based here in the county, who really are industry leaders in tourism, but I would love to bring in and talk with you about those issues.
Our zoning review committee has spent a lot of time with the short-term rental, et cetera, issue. The big problem with that is because we've gotten templates from other villages, et cetera, as to what they were doing. Problem is that there's such a variation in codes that makes it difficult to apply one template to another. You have to kind of pick and choose from here and there, and it becomes somewhat problematic in trying to create that policy. The committee worked on it for quite a while and they still came up with, they came up with recommendations and things that they thought were important, but some of it was still left as very vague and very up in the air as to, parking issues. If you have a short-term rental, does it have to be attached to that house or can it be separate? And if it's separate, how many parking spaces does it have to have? Or if it's attached, does it have to have a separate entrance to just so many different aspects of it that just come from the code itself for the village or the municipality. It's a tough nut. But it's one that, and again, the county's the only one that has they do have arrangements with an agency that supposedly tracks all of the Airbnbs, the rentals.
Well, the county has a contract with Airbnb.
Right.
The problem with Airbnb, and Airbnb was the biggest obstacle to passage of that legislation, from the legislature. They will, submit the occupancy tax, to the county, but there's very little identification that goes along with that. And the county hired, I think the contract is still in place, I don't know. Company called, Granicus that, has their own logarithms, their own, that they use to identify those places. And frankly, I encouraged them to do that when we were still the TPA, the tourism promotion agent. Because I said, you're leaving at least 40% on the table. And sure enough, they were. So they feel I think they feel they have a handle as to who those places are, but you know, the great majority, now this is nationally, of short-term rentals are, you know, it's not the couple who lives down the street from you who have built that extra apartment for mom after dad died, and now that mom died, you know, they have that extra space. No, it's corporately owned, the great majority across the country. So, and you're probably seeing that in the villages when you look at who owns these things. There are multiple properties owned by the same entity. That's a whole other, that's a business.
Yeah.
That's operating without regulation, without fire, often without fire inspections, let alone code inspections. And that leaves each of you liable for a lawsuit.
Which is why we appealed to the county to give us their list, and they seem to be somewhat.
Well, the initial legislation for the occupancy tax, and I didn't expect to speak this much today, but the first legislation that went through, no one got the information. Dennis Valenti in the town of Davenport had to file a Freedom of Information Act to get the list of properties in Davenport. I had to do that when we were the TPA because I wanted to make sure when we were running the tourism program for the county, when we were running the tourism promotion website, I wanted to make sure that all lodging was listed on that site. We never made any distinction as to chamber member or not. I had to file a Freedom of Information Act. It took 2 months. And what I got were 29 pages of faxed information with the name and municipality. Useless. When the legislation was amended, after its sunset and it came back in second iteration, it gave that information to allow town supervisors to get that information. So, you know, why we just can't share this information makes no sense to me.
It should all be transparent, should be all be.
Because it's real hard to find, because when we first put ours in place, it was more just for fire inspections. So we had somebody locally to talk to if
Right.
we had an issue, because
What you put in place was, and what Rob put in place up in Stanford, I think were two of the more reasonable.
and early on, you could kind of go on the site and see them and see pictures. Now there's no pictures. You almost have to book a time in order to figure out where the place is. There's no way to kind of.
Airbnb does not want, they're marketing. They do not want to give any information that can be used for regulatory purposes. They're not gonna be your friend when it comes to regulating those properties in your community.
And yet the municipality, as you pointed out, can become liable because
It's the should have, you know, You
Mhm.
should have known that that was operating in your community. You should have known that it was unsafe. So when someone decides to, you had the same problem with student housing once upon a time. You know, when someone decides they're going to put the charcoal grill on the second floor roof, on the porch roof, and that porch roof collapses because it was held in place with a couple warped 2x4s, you're liable because you should have known. So we can't, you can't, not gonna be on me, I'm not an elected official, thankfully. You know, it's,
One of the alternatives is to try and place the responsibility back in the opposite direction. To pass local laws that require registration of those places. Then if they don't register it, then that's on them.
and that's the nature of what the state legislature passed. I don't know why the governor hasn't signed it yet. Maybe after the election and, you know, the donations all come in.
I was amazed to read there's 540 laws that she hasn't even addressed that were passed by the legislature. That's outside over and above what was, she did sign, which to me, how do you keep up with all these laws? How do you pass that many laws in a year and expect everybody to keep up with them? I just find that astounding.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Oh, if I can add one other date to your calendar, I think I just got confirmation here. I've been trying to schedule a meet and greet, for, at the very least, all of our candidates for state assembly. Maybe state senate as well, because we have a state senate contest. I think, I'll let you know for sure. But October 24, a Thursday, the chamber's gonna host a something of more informal meet and greet, not formal questions. I don't want anyone walking up and asking our Republican candidates about Project 2025, like I had at my legislative forum. And everyone looked at each other like, what are you talking about? Truly, meet and greet. It's gonna be, I think it'll be over in Centennial Lounge in Sanford Hall on SUNY Delhi campus. 6 to 7:30 on Thursday, October 24th. At this point, I can tell you Brian Marr will be there. I just got confirmation from Brian. Janet Tweed will be there, and I'm gonna work on the others today. So hopefully that will work. And Lillian, don't steal my thunder by publishing that.
we're going to do one on Harvest Festival for the town and village. We're gonna have a meet and greet. And
Good.
scoop ice cream on Courthouse Square. So people can get to meet the people there,
Meet and greet who?
meet the village
Village board?
and.
And
the
town board?
Board,
Brilliant.
so just to give people a chance to talk and meet people, identify a face.
Nice.
Enjoy a little ice cream.
That's a great idea. I think I'm away that weekend, so I won't be able to.
You won't be able to come harass us?
No, I never will harass you.
But it is well. Maya and I found, because we had agreed to scoop ice cream for the historical society. A lot of people came, got ice cream, had no idea who we were. Really? Really? None. Wow. Didn't know. So between us, we said, well, why don't we do this and fall harvest festival, a lot of people be out, they can get an opportunity to know who the face is and who their representatives are, who they can complain to if they want to complain.
That must mean you're doing something right, no controversy. July.
I don't, well,
To get a fair bit of traffic through the office, and a good deal of them still don't know.
most of them,
If they say, oh, did you want to speak with the mayor? Oh, who's the mayor?
they,
I mean, then most days, so it's easy for me to introduce.
Yeah, well,
Where do you have your meetings?
village meeting. We used to have it the third Monday, but I got elected as a alternate to CWC, and that meets the same night. So I told our board, I asked our board, I said,
Change
if you
it?
don't want to change, I'll just resign from the CWC. And
Well,
they
you
said,
do it
no,
on
no, they won't be
Tuesdays?
going to that, so they switched it to the third Tuesday at 6 of each month.
6 p.m., huh?
we have ours twice a month, second and fourth Mondays at 7.
Now, how long do your meetings last? 'Cause we
Depends if
used-
you're talking about water or not.
Yeah, I was gonna say, to be honest, if I get out of there by 10 o'clock, I'm lucky.
Wow.
And
Because
it's,
I can remember a time when we had 2 meetings coming.
you're right.
And they went after.
Constantly now. Constantly.
I'm feeling your fault. I'm feeling.
I felt bad that ours was going to 11 or 10:30 most times,
But we only meet once.
so we only
If
meet
you
one.
want.
It's always like 10 o'clock. I tried to get us to go to once a month and they say we have too much business. I couldn't get the trustees to.
We start at 5 o'clock, so everybody's hungry, so.
There you go.
Probably by 7:30, we're,
That's
everybody's like, okay.
good. That's not a bad idea.
Rumbling in the temple.
So what time your meeting starts?
7 PM.
At 7 p.m. and it goes all the way up to like 10 o'clock?
Oh, every,
Oh, ours
Every-
start
yeah.
at 6 and they still go till.
yeah, we go to 10.
At least,
The other night, Monday night, I got out at 9:38, which has been one of the earliest.
And you do it twice a
I go
month?
twice a month.
Oh, boy.
there's a lot of stuff anymore.
Mhm.
to get, I mean,
Aren't you glad you're in a small village?
I am.
I have tried to
No
talk.
inflation,
I
stay.
tried to talk our going to once a month and. So they wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
well,
I usually go, I think we only did one that went all the way up to 8 o'clock. And that was a lot. Start at 6. But usually our meetings are, as long as people's not fighting, 6:45 is done.